I'm Catherine Hill from Care for the Family, and in this session we're going to be looking at how we can ensure that our children really know that we love them. When our first child was born, I used to enjoy meeting other mums at the local parent and toddler group, and I remember noticing how different all our babies were. I remember one morning when we were all sitting around and our babies were on mats on the floor, and one baby saw a toy on the far side of the room that he wanted to get to, and he set off commando-like across the room. The rest of us were amazed. Our babies could barely lift their heads, let alone crawl. The mother scooped him up and smothered him with kisses, and the rest of us all stood round and gave him great applause. And this baby looked a bit shocked. He didn't really know what he had done to be at the centre of attention. But he had learnt a lesson that day that would stay with him for the rest of his life. People like us when we achieve and when we do well. I remember learning that lesson in the school playground. I would get in early to practice to get into the netball team. There were 12 children and 7 places on the team. Everyone wanted to be on the team because everyone wanted to be a winner. And as adults, the world hasn't changed very much. We still want to be on the team. There's pressure to be a winner because we know that people love us when we succeed. And the world is giving that same message to our children. But as parents, we have the opportunity to give them a different message. So whether or not they come top in the spelling test, or win prizes at school, or get into the sports team, or are chosen for the school play, we have the opportunity to show them that our love for them isn't based on what they achieve, but on who they are. The most precious gift that we can give to our children is to let them know that we love them unconditionally. It's as if there's an empty tank inside them that needs filling up with love. Even on a bad day, we know that we love our children to bits. But the key is to show them that love in a way that really connects, so they feel loved. And in this session, we're going to be looking at different ways that we can show our children that we love them. Different ways of filling up that tank so that they know that they are loved unconditionally. No strings attached.
Nurturing them, care for them,
attention, love. Yeah, that's all what I was brought up with.
Comfort them, give them hugs.
Yeah, give them attention, I guess.
If they play football, go out with them, play football with them, take them out to their movies, you feel appreciated that way.
In my opinion, little small gestures of love, not just presence, but really listening, communicating.
Cuddles. Yeah, just telling them that you love them, I guess.
Playing with them, just,
Yeah, spending time.
Yeah.
Show them love, be there for them, give them advice when they need it. Give them hugs and kisses.
Yeah.
Many people believe that, if you love a child, you don't need to discipline him. But I think if you really love someone, especially a child, you really need to impart discipline, which is imparted, of course, with love.
Tell them you love them. Very often.
Just lots of physical love and contact.
A lot of hugging and smiling. I think we made a very conscious decision early on, always to smile at him.
Like ask how the day was and listen to what they have to say.
Put your arms around them. Although I wasn't particularly touchy-feely myself.
Hi, Mum.
It's delicious.
mean, how can they be so different?
Do our children have different personalities? Yeah, they're all very different from each other.
Yeah, I think we've got, 3 children. We've got a teen drama queen, a quiet, thoughtful one, and then an energetic, enthusiastic, effervescent one. I don't know where he gets that from.
Yeah, I wonder.
All 4 boys are completely different.
We have 3 children and at least 3 personalities. On average, about 2 each, I'd say.
Sometimes it seems strange that children that have come from the same parents can be so different to each other.
Yeah. You can say one thing to one of them and it will be like water off a duck's back. You say the same things in the same tone to another one and he'll get really upset by it.
Obviously, as they've grown, you do realise that just because they're boys doesn't mean they're going to be the same, and they've all got their own personalities.
It definitely is important.
Yeah. I think it is absolutely important
to show your children that you love them. I think that's natural for anybody, not just children. They need to know that they are loved and cared for.
It's so important to show your children that they're loved, because I know from my point of view, my mum and dad told me and showed me that they loved me, and actually it meant a lot to me to know that.
They all love praise. They all sort of puff up when you say, "Oh, I'm really proud of you."
That's probably the most important thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Showing them your love for them.
Yeah.
It's important for his development. It's important that he feels secure and knows that he can that we'll care for him as best as we can.
You don't want to be always telling them what they've done wrong, and I think it's very important for them to know that you love them as well. You know, more so than anything.
I think a lot of time as a parent you spend disciplining your children, teaching them what's right, what's wrong, saying no. So I think you've really got to make sure that you get the balance then between making sure that your children know that they're loved, so that it's not all negative and that they don't see you as the bad guy.
So while you have to discipline them, you've also got to praise them and be their biggest fan as opposed to their biggest critic.
How do we demonstrate love? Lots of hugs and kisses.
Yes.
Yes.
We tell them.
And we tell them as well.
We would tell them.
Yes.
Always before bed, give them a big hug, just tell them that I'm proud of them, that I love them, you know, when things go well and when things don't go so well. They're always going to be my children, and there isn't anything that they can do that'll make me love them less.
I try and tell them that I love them, and then try and back that up by showing them through spending time with them, doing things that they like and things that I like.
Well, I give them hugs. I make them cards and presents.
I tell them, but then also I work hard at school and like make them cards and stuff when it's their birthdays.
He gets kind of sung to and played with, and he gets a lot of kind of cuddles and physical affection.
There are lots of different ways, and it's not just the giving them a hug or a kiss or, you know, stroking their hair, or it's, you know, spending time with them.
Play some games like drafts, chess, or some puzzles.
Yeah, they do play with us a lot.
And I think, yes, trying to spend time with them individually, which is quite difficult, I think, when you have more than one. Shana in particular really enjoys it if I do something just with her.
Giving them lots of positive encouragement all the time, so when they do good things, make sure you acknowledge that, say you're doing really well, that's excellent, well done, and just kind of reinforcing all the time your approval of them, which I'm sure gets more challenging day by day, but you just have to keep going and keep telling them, expressing that love verbally and physically.
I kiss them and hug them, even when they're being naughty, and I'm like, "Arr!" I still think it's important to say, "Now, Mummy loves you, but you've disappointed me with that behaviour."
I sometimes draw pictures. Once I draw a panther picture for them, for Mummy and Daddy, and I like cuddle them too.
She will tell me kissing and cuddling, but she does quite often tell me that she loves me more than I love her, which isn't true.
I would like to say that the children show us that they love us by being obedient, but that isn't how it works.
I think we tell them that we love them. We give them hugs and cuddles, and they come up and do the same to us.
We show our parents that we love them by doing stuff for them, like washing up, drying up,
making lattes.
She thinks she knows how much I love her, but I probably love her more than she can possibly think.
I don't know whether they'll ever know how much they're loved by us.
And I think for us, we didn't understand probably how much our parents love us until we had kids, and then we thought, oh, this is what it feels like to love a child. So I imagine it'll probably be the same for them, that, you know, they'll know that we love them, but they might not understand that until maybe they become parents themselves.
It certainly made me think about my parents differently.
He seems very kind of secure, I guess, so I think he probably does know how much we love him.
I think our children know how much we love them. I think just by, you know, things we say and things that, you know, we do and things that we do together.
Yes, they definitely know that they're loved. Yeah, I hope so. I think so.
Very happy.
Very happy and wanted. We've had a lot of big background, but then you came into a nice warm home.
If there's anything, the kids know they're loved. That I know. You know, for our flaws and whatever as parents, they know that they're loved.
I have a daughter who is 6 and a son who is 4. In terms of how they react to things, they are quite different. My daughter is incredibly independent and loves responsibility. My son, if he's interested in the topic, he'll want to take hold of it and focus on it and like the responsibility. But if it's in any way mundane or something that he's not interested in, as simple as things like getting dressed in the morning, my daughter will most of the time happily choose what she wears in the morning. So she'll choose whether she puts trousers or skirt on, and she's just very capable of doing that. Compared to my son, who is also very capable of getting dressed in the morning, but will do all he can to stall the fact that he needs to get dressed. If he can in any way get me as a mother to help him out doing it, he will. Our 2 children respond quite differently in different ways that we love them. So it's been quite an interesting journey because my son is totally all about hugging. I am naturally huggy and I will naturally give cuddles and lots of affection, whereas my daughter's quite different. Whereas she absolutely loves hugs as well. She appreciates more if I actually spend some time with her and give her some one-on-one attention. She absolutely loves going into role-play gaming, and she loves being in a classroom and being a school teacher, and she absolutely loves it if I'm a pupil. Yeah, it's just taken a bit more time to work that out. You can't assume you know what's going on because you've had one. With the second one, they're very different, so you're constantly learning new things all the time about the second one, and if you think you can predict how they're going to react because of your first child, it could be completely different your second child. So I think it's just being really aware that you don't necessarily know the answers and you're still learning at every point.
In this session, we've been looking at how we can help our children know that we really love them. And we're joined by columnist and author Sarah Abel. So in the story that we heard earlier, Sarah, what were the things that maybe struck you most from that?
Well, it was interesting, the mother talking about the differences between her 2 children, and I think that's one of the greatest challenges, but also one of the greatest excitements for parents, is seeing how different our children can be from each other, but also how different they can be from ourselves in our character and our temperament.
And I mean, we've got 4 children, they are all completely different, and I guess, Rob, it's the same for you?
Yeah, I don't think with us there was so much excitement, a sheer shock
I mean, when our daughter came along, she was so compliant. She was the perfect child. And we honestly thought we were perfect parents. We actually began to give other parents negative, critical advice on where they were going wrong, but that's not a good idea. Because when my son was born, well, he came into the world smoking a cigar. That little boy used to wake up every day of his young life with the same prayer on those tiny lips. Dear God, help me drive my mother crazy today. And it was just a sheer shock. Totally different children.
And I think because they are so different in temperament, in personality, it's good that we think about the different ways that maybe we can show love and affection to them.
Absolutely, and it was interesting hearing that woman talking earlier about her 2 children and how one of them loved to be hugged, but the other wanted to spend that special time with her playing. And Dr. Gary Chapman talks about the 5 love languages. He says that we all have 5 different ways that we express or receive love. And those are actions, which is doing things for our children. There is time, which is spending that attention and that one-to-one focused time with our children. There is touch, which is giving a hug or putting our arms around a child. And there's words, which is saying, I love you, or you're special, or you've done something really well. And then finally, there's gifts, which is giving a present or a token, which says, I've thought about you when I bought this. And for each of us, normally one of those love languages, or maybe 2, speaks love in an even sort of bigger way than the other ones. It's the thing that fills up our tank, and you can see it in our children. They suddenly feel and know that they're loved when we show them love in those different ways.
And actually, so that's really interesting, because I remember one time when I was going away and I bought a little chocolate bar for each of our children, and I left it on their beds. And for our boys, our 3 boys, they loved the chocolate. They just wolfed it down. But actually for our daughter, it was really different. She loved the chocolate, but it said much more to her. It said to her that I thought about her and that I loved her. And it was like a light bulb moment. And I realised that gifts were really important to her. That was the way that she received love.
You know what I've noticed is when they're tiny, it's quite hard to spot their particular love language. But as they get older, it becomes clearer. It could be 1 or 2 of them. But I'll tell you what's difficult is if our child has a love language that doesn't come naturally to us. You know, they need to be hugged. We're not great huggers. And somehow we have to make ourselves, I think, express it in a way that really resonates with them.
And I think however we express love to our children, in order for them really to feel loved, we need to show them that we accept them for who they are.
Yes, acceptance is really important. I think the greatest gifts that we can show our children to make them thrive and to flourish in life is for them to know that they're lovable, that they're valued and that they're safe. And acceptance really plays into that whole thing about feeling valued. It says, you're okay, not only are you okay, but you are great for who you are.
And I think that as parents that can be hard because we need sometimes to challenge them, we need to encourage them, we need to sometimes, tell them that they can do better. And how we do that within the frame of accepting them, I think it can be challenging.
And especially with a more testing child. I remember when my son was about 14, he said to me, Dad, I don't believe this now, but when I was little, I sometimes think you love my sister more than me. And I said, oh, son, I understand that, because whenever there was trouble, you were in the middle of it. And anyway, I now know that my daughter, the little sneak, used to shove some of her trouble onto him. But, it was so easy for him to only hear the negative things.
And I think sometimes it's important to think about both sides of the coin as well, how we think of our children and how we react to them. Sometimes we think of the things which are very negative, but often there's another side to it. So perhaps we have a child that's stubborn, but the other side of the coin of being stubborn is being determined, of being strong-willed, and that can be a good characteristic in life. So it helps to think about the other side of the trait that we find difficult and think, what are the positives, what are the upsides of those traits?
It's more difficult again with the testing child, because so often we want them to be like the more compliant one. We try to actually make them be somebody they just can't be. And the problem with that is when you try to make somebody be somebody they can't be, you miss the person that's there. The big heart, the generous spirit, all those things that later in life, even if they're driving us crazy now, will stand them in very, very good stead.
And I think sometimes that means that we have to almost take a step back and look at a situation differently. So I remember one time when our son wanted to have a go at washing our car. Now, not something that often happens in our house, I have to say, but we gave him a hose and he made a pretty good job of it. But then he did what any boy would do, you know, armed with a hose. He got everything else wet as well, including his brother. And instead of saying to him, great job on the car, what I did, I just told him off. I nagged him about, you know, getting everything else wet. And it can take some resolve, I think, to actually, you know, stop ourselves doing that and spot the positives, to give them praise.
And I think sometimes we have to really search to find that something to praise them for. I had a lovely story some time ago. It was a little boy who came last in all the school races. And in the egg and spoon race, when all his friends were whizzing by, he was studiously walking slowly, holding his spoon. And he came last in that as well. And his little head was down. And then as he walked away, his mother put her arm around him and said, you were the only little boy whose egg didn't fall off their spoon. And his little head came up. You need a mum like that, don't you?
And I think sometimes it can be hard. We have to spot things that we can praise them for. And if we can't praise achievement, we can praise character, we can praise effort.
And we can encourage them, which, you know, that is an example of that story. I think children so need our encouragement. It gives them courage, that's what it means. And it helps them to move into their full potential, to take that next step and to take risks and to know that it's okay to try different things.
So Sarah, out of all the things that we've been talking about, what would be your one top tip? One thing that you'd like to share with parents?
I think it's simply that if we want our children to feel loved, then it's important that they know that they're accepted for who they are.
Very good, very good.
In this session, we've looked at the 5 love languages, 5 different ways of showing our children that we love them. Through our words, through time, through touch, through gifts, and through our actions. And each of our children need all these expressions of love. But as they get older, we can spot which ones connect especially for them. And if we have more than one child, the chances are it will be different for each one. And as parents, we can be on the lookout to spot those ways that particularly connect for our children. For one of our children, it's through words. When he was about 11, I was cleaning his room and I found under the bed a shoebox. And in this shoebox were loads of cards and scraps of paper that all said kind and affirming and encouraging things to him. And when I asked him about it, he said, "Oh, it's my treasure box." He said, when I'm feeling sad, I look at it and I read the things that people have said and it makes me feel good. And so knowing that, I've been able to find different ways of showing him that I love him through words. So things like putting a little note in his lunchbox that he was taking to school when he had a football match saying, "You'll be great on the team." Or when he's older, I've been able to send him text messages on his phone. So whether it's through hugs and kisses, small gifts, the things we do for our children, words of praise and encouragement, or simply spending time with them, if we can spot those opportunities to show our children that we love them unconditionally, we'll be amazed at the difference that it can make.